Tonight, South Africa still struggles to heal from the Marikana massacre, and for some, peace may never come. It's these images that scared and scarred the nation. It was a bitter battle between workers and a mining company. On the 16th of August, police killed 34 miners after a protracted strike at Lonmin's Marikana mine in Rustenburg. In the lead-up to the killings, 10 others were also killed. One of those 10 was burned alive inside his car. His name was Aisha Fundi. He was a Lonmin security guard. Tonight, his widow, Aisha Fundi, joins me here as my guest. Thank you for joining us. I can't imagine what it must be like to see images like that. Thank you for letting us use them. I should imagine this is a very emotional time for you.
Yeah. Thank you to you again, to the listeners. Yeah, it is very emotional for me, my children, and my family, and everyone who loves Hassan, especially his colleagues. Yeah.
Can you tell us what happened that day, what you know to have gone down?
What happened is, it was on Sunday, the 12th of August, and my husband was at home because of his work. He worked as a Lonmin superintendent, and he was in charge of looking after the other officers. He was called to come and assist with the work because the strikers were striking and they needed manpower. And then he answered his call and he went to work over the weekend. They normally work Monday to Friday, but on that specific day he went to work on Sunday. Unfortunately, that was the last time I saw him. And then I was told by a friend that the miners were striking towards the offices of Lonmin. And then he was caught up amongst the security. What happened is the security happens to outnumbered by the strikers. It means that they were dealing with a large crowd of about 3,000 employees, and there were only few of them. And then they were trapped inside there, and then because they were using light-skinned vehicles, the strikers attacked them with pangas. They cut them into pieces, and then eventually they even burned them. My husband, he was not alone in the car. He was with his colleague, Franz Mavelani, who happened to be burned beyond recognition. My husband was partially burned on the left-hand side because I think there were people that were trying to rescue him. But unfortunately, he was died by that because of the injuries of the pangas on his head.
And do you know if whoever was responsible was caught, and what was the response from the mine afterwards?
What I heard from the commission, because I happened to attend the commission, I heard that there are miners, and there are certain miners that were caught with some of their things, like their phones, their mine guns. So I don't know them, who are those people even yet, because there are civil cases that are going on, and I never happened to attend one of the cases. I'm awaiting to hear from my lawyers who are those people, because there were the names of the people, about 20 of them, and some of those that happened to kill my husband, some of them, I think they died. They died on the 16th. Some, they're still alive, and they are now attending the court.
And how do you feel about the commemoration which is taking place today? How the Marikana massacre, what happened on this day, seems to have overshadowed what happened when your husband was killed on the 12th. And why have you never been invited to the commemoration? What's going on there?
I feel pity for the widows that lost their husband on the 16th, but to me, it means nothing, the 16th. I see it as an ordinary day, more especially because of the division that we had since from the commission. The stakeholders, they didn't take care of us. They ignore us. It's like we didn't exist. So if maybe from the word go, government or the mine or the unions take care of us collectively, and they join us as the widows of Marikana, then it was going to be okay. But for now, we are being ignored. Nobody's taking responsibility of our loved ones. Miners are not taking the responsibility that they kill our loved ones.
Why do you think there's this reluctance to look into what happened on that day?
And that is where the problem is, because if South Africa wants to solve Marikana, there's no way that they can ignore the first 10 victims of Marikana. We need to talk to Marikana collectively, like the way our mine, Lonmin, says they celebrate the week that changed their life. They don't want to specify the events of Marikana, because specifying the event, it means they're ignoring the others. So if we need to celebrate 16th of August, what about the day when my husband was killed? So we need to celebrate the whole week which changed our life. That is when we need the stakeholders like the government, the Lonmin employees, people to interact with us, almost everyone who took part in Marikana, the unions, NUM, AMCO, whoever was involved in Marikana, to sit down and discuss the issues of Marikana and how do we move forward as a community.
Because unless you acknowledge, I should imagine, all the actors who were involved, and there were many, there'll never be reconciliation.
Exactly.
And the conditions under which you are all living, or your family is living in that area, I mean, has anything improved? So many promises were made, possibly not to your families, but have you seen any changes?
No changes now, but what happened is, you remember, Lonmin has hired all the widows after Marikana to replace our husband. Though I'm replacing my husband, he was employed as the senior capacity as a superintendent, and I am now replacing him at the junior position. I'm working as a human resource administrator, which is a less position than he was working. But I'm glad I can still put food on the table. Sorry, that's the little that I can do at the moment. But unfortunately, we don't have any resources. People are shifting responsibilities in terms of making the compensation. We don't know whether Lonmin is supposed to compensate us, government supposed to compensate us. They are passing the buck. We don't know who's responsible for our death, especially the first 10 victims of Marikana.
And do you belong to any unions, any groups that might look after you?
My late husband was an NUM member.
And
I'm not a union member.
What sort of support have you had from NUM? I mean, I know we had issues on that day between...
NUM, yes, they've done little about us because they've never done any recognition about their loved ones. They also lost the members, and we ask ourselves, why are they silent? What is the meaning of this silence? Because they lost the members, and then they're saying nothing about that. But to my side, there are specific people that they will come to me because they knew my husband, they were working with me. They will come to my family and comfort us. The other thing that the NUM did, they are lawyers, because remember, the first 10 victims were represented by Mr. Rampele, and he happened not to have the funding from the, who's people that are funding?
I don't know. From
the Legal Aid Board. So they refused him funding, but then eventually I was adopted back by NUM lawyers. So other families, they don't have the legal representative because as Mr. Rampel was busy helping them, he didn't have the funding to pursue their cases. That is why nobody is setting their cases, because Mr. Rampel needs money to pursue their cases.
So has anybody stepped in to try to help you? And I'm also wondering, and I know this is dealing with Marikana specifically, but you know, days after you're on the 16th, when you hear that some of the police service members have been dismissed on massive pay when you and the other people affected by this violence, whoever was behind that violence, got nothing, how does that make you feel?
I don't actually have a problem with the police in what they are doing. I have no right maybe to judge what they've done, because I saw the police, 2 policemen that they lost their loved ones, which happens to share our sentiments, because also those 2 policemen, they were killed the same way that my husband was killed. So I cannot judge because I don't know anything in the police, whatever it happened during the 16th with the clash between them and the workers.
So many different sides,
because I think I happen to go to the commission and I know a lot about that. So only the police can answer that type of questions.
Okay, and where do you see your future now? Where is it going to be? Will you go back?
Well, I will maybe appeal to see the president. My greatest wish is to see the president. He launched this Tuma Mina campaign, and I want to Tuma Mina president to us, especially the first 10 victims. We don't have any representation. He's our only hope now that he can come to Marikana and resolve issues in Marikana. That will make difference, and that will make it happy. It will never bring my husband back, but if I happen to get a compensation, I'll be able to survive. The things that I lost the houses, I lost the cars, I'll be able to live again with my kids in peace.
Aisha Fundi, I really appreciate you coming into
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
He now has the job of protecting human rights, not just here at home, but all around the world. As of today, the position of Amnesty International Secretary General is a South African. He joins me next. This is Tonight with Jane Dutton.